When a man invites his wife to his bed and she does not come, and he, the husband, spends the night being angry with her, the angels curse her until morning.
So when it comes to conjugal right, this is the most well-known hadith among Muslims, and the relative popularity of such hadith has given rise to a rather male-serving and man-centric understanding of conjugal rights among Muslims.
Meaning some husbands develop an overblown sense of entitlement to sex, that sex is man's absolute right and they can demand it anytime, anywhere, regardless of the wife's physical and emotional condition.
So why are you complaining? You are the man.
Well, it's because that's not what the Prophet taught us.
Are you sure? Why? Is this hadith not sahih?
No, that's not the issue. This is a strong hadith, but in fact, I give you another strong hadith. If a man calls his wife, then let her come, even if she is busy at the oven.
Yeah. And then don't forget there's another one. If a man calls his wife to his bed, let her respond, even if she's riding her camel.
So all these hadiths are strong hadith. But I can imagine women wishing that the Prophet had not said this hadith, because it can put them in a difficult position.
Like some of the women that I met in my counselling who have to work to support the husband and family financially, and then still have to come back, prepare dinner, do housework, help the children with homework, settle the children, while the husband waits impatiently on bed, and then expect her to be hot and sexy with him after that.
This is an extreme example of men insisting on their wife's duty to satisfy them sexually, even though actually it is their inability, their inadequacy to fulfill their husbandly duty to provide for the family that make the wife having to go to work and overwork in the office and overwork at home and become too tired to be in the mood for sex and intimacy.
However, as a counsellor, I understand why the Prophet issued these reminders to women. Apparently, during his time, there is a common tactic women used to dismiss their husband's sexual advance.
Some would bluff that they were having period. These women are known as the Mughallisa. Some would make empty promises of sex at a later time, and these women are known as the Masrifa.
So naturally, women can't imagine the intensity of sexual urges that a man experiences simply because they don't have the same body, the same organ, the same hormone as men. So they tend to dismiss their husband untimely and non-stop advances as indulgent or undisciplined. So the Prophet needed a strong reminders for women not to be flippant about their husband's sexual need.
The problem is when men come along and use these hadiths, which are meant for wives, and use it to impose their so-called absolute right to have sex. And on top of that, they conveniently forget the hadith that were meant for them, specifically for them. Like, for example, when any of you has sex with his wife, be earnest. When his desire is fulfilled before hers, do not stop until her desire is fulfilled.
Yeah. And then there's another hadith. In three matters, the weaknesses of a man is expressed. Thirdly, the man who approaches his wife and thereby fulfills his sexual desire from her before she fulfills hers from him.
If you look at this hadith carefully, the Prophet didn't say anything like, it would be good if sometimes, once in a while, you satisfy your wife. No, he didn't say that. Actually, the hadith was imperative. It was a command. When any of you have sex with his wife, do not stop until her desire is fulfilled. Meaning, die must satisfy, without fail, without excuse.
The problem is this: if you understand the female desire, no man, no matter how handsome or skillful or persuasive, can possibly excite a woman sexually if she's not already desiring him at that point in time. It doesn't matter whether he uses physical or psycho-emotional stimulation. The female desire must be there first. If it's not there, no stimulation can begin on.
And what brings on their desire are not matters related to sex per se. It's a bit too long to explain here, but we have explained it in our book Sex, Soul and Islam in the section on the elusive female desire. but we will summarize it later in this video.
For now, it's enough to say that the female desire cannot come on demand, let alone the female orgasm.
So this duty of the husband to satisfy the wife every time they have sex would negate or nullify or would cancel his supposed right to have sex anytime he wants, because he can't possibly satisfy her anytime he wants.
Even she cannot do it. That's just how the female desire works. So if both husband and wives want to be calculative about their conjugal rights, they will end up in this stalemate.
But instead, if husbands focus on the husband-directed hadith and wives focus on the wife-directed hadith, what could happen instead?
Firstly, wives would not be dismissive of their husband's advances, even when the time and situation is unsuitable. Instead, they would learn of more sensitive ways to respond. And very often, it's not so much of the refusal that would make a husband angry, but the way it's done or said. When sensitively done, even a postponement of sex can be taken by the husband as a matter of anticipation instead of causing him disappointment.
But even if the wives can't find a diplomatic way to refuse or to postpone, because they take heed of the Prophet's warning, they would be willing to find help or suggestion from either professionals like sex therapists or marital counselors, or even trustworthy friends and relatives.
Secondly, and perhaps more importantly, when husbands care more about the husband-directed hadith, they will start learning and discovering and finding out what turns on the elusive female desire.
And soon he will discover that what turns her desire is actually his desire for her, in the truest sense of the word her, meaning not just her body, not just her genitals, but rather her interests, her feelings, her thoughts, her aspirations, her needs, her values, even her mood and her state of mind.
In practical terms, that means if she's busy in the kitchen, what turns her on is your unsolicited help that you give her while she's preparing dinner. In fact, it doesn't even have to be in the kitchen, like taking out the trash, doing the laundry, cleaning the toilets, or tending to the kids, among other things.
And it's no coincidence that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was also busy in the kitchen, helping his wife, sometimes preparing things in the house, mending his clothes, and he was also known not to be fussy about whatever the wife cooked. And this is according to Siti Aisha, radiallahu anha.
But don't misunderstand, the magic is not in housework per se. For example, you already have a domestic helper or a maid, housework may be a bit irrelevant.
Yeah, unless you want to tackle the maid. Sorry. Okay. For some wives, a husband's attention, support, encouragement, or involvement in her career, for example, or in her activism even, or even in her interest or in her hobby, or even in matters like her health, whatever, as long as it is something which is genuine, it is a demonstration of your interest in her as a person, and not just as a sex object.
So back to the hadith, it means that for the sexual hadith to be useful to couples' relationship, both parties should care more for the collection of hadiths which are meant for them respectively, instead of fussing over what the Prophet said to their spouses.
In this way, you don't see the concept of conjugal rights as a contractual entitlement or a guarantee for you to have sexual services from your wives. Instead, the word rights in conjugal rights is considered as a permission given to you by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by society and by your family, exclusively to the two of you. And this is a more productive mentality to have with regards to the concept of conjugal right.
Because with this mentality, whether you make love or not tonight, it's a matter of desire, attraction, seduction, love, pleasure, playfulness.
Such beautiful experiences which are beautiful because they are voluntary and not because they are forced or enforced even. So this brings us to the third type of sexual hadith. And this hadith focuses more on the sensual and the emotional aspects of lovemaking, which we will focus on the next few videos, inshallah.